We're almost there. You've arrived at lesson 1.5 in this beginner soap making tutorial. This is Thermal Mermaid, a channel where we make soap and cosmetics, and this video is part 5 of a 6-part tutorial that goes over everything you need to know to get your very first batch of homemade soap made. Now, if you found this video and you haven't started from the beginning, I recommend that you do cover parts 1 through 4 first so you can follow along. And if you'd like something to download and read to go along with this tutorial, then you can grab a copy of the Soap Making Companion, which will give you a lot more information than just these 6 videos, and it's available for free at the link below. Now make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can be sure to get the entire collection of this tutorial series. Now let's proceed. Lesson 1, Part 5, Saponification and how to calculate a recipe. Now that we've gotten through the safety lessons and you know what things that you need to gather, it's time to start putting the first recipe together. Now first, it's important to understand how soap turns into soap. The chemical change that happens when we combine fats and lye is called saponification. Oil is a triglyceride. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as a fatty acid. When it reacts with lye, the compound molecules break apart and rebind into a different combination. When new molecules are formed, the result is glycerol and soap. Now in this course, you don't need to know the detailed chemistry to make soap for yourself. The important thing to know is that when you combine oils and lye, every molecule finds a partner, and when they bind together, the final product is neither lye nor oil. It becomes soap. The important thing to know is that when you're crafting your recipe, you must pour your measurements as accurately as possible because you want all of the molecules to be able to find a partner so that there isn't any lye left over in the bar. This would result in a bar that could cause skin irritations. So how do we know how much lye, water, and oils need to come together to make a bar of soap? Oil has what's called a saponification value. This number represents the amount of lye that would be completely neutralized in 1 gram of oil. The saponification value is also called the sap value. So let's demonstrate an example. Olive oil is a common oil used in soap making. Start with choosing how much oil we want to use in our recipe. In this example, we'll use 16 ounces of olive oil. The olive oil has a sap value of 0.135 if we're using sodium hydroxide as our lye. The sap value is different for olive oil if we're using potassium hydroxide as our lye. As a reminder, lessons 1 through 3 only cover solid bars of soap, so to get through these lessons, we're only using sodium hydroxide. Now with a little bit of math, you can easily convert your calculations from sodium hydroxide to potassium hydroxide, but that's too advanced for this lesson, and we can do that later on in other lessons. Now, just to make it a tad more complicated, when you formulate a soap recipe, you have any number of oils to choose from. There are over 100 oils that you can use to make soap, with about 20 or 30 of them being the most common. And each of these oils has its own saponification value. Now you have to know the saponification value for each oil for you to accurately calculate your recipe. Now typically you won't have to memorize this, but you will have to look it up. Now to make that easiest, below this video there's a downloadable chart with a list of oils and their saponification values. Now you can easily print this and keep it in your recipe collection for quick reference. So let's calculate our recipe. Multiply the amount of oil times the saponification value for the sodium hydroxide. In this case, we need to multiply 16 ounces of olive oil times its sap value of 0.135 for a result of 2.16. Now you know that you'll need 2.16 ounces of lye crystals in your recipe. The amount of water you'll need to add is typically a 2-to-1 ratio of the amount of lye crystals. The water measurement will be 2.16 times 2, or 4.32 ounces. The amount of water, it's not as relevant to the recipe as the lye. The purpose of the water is simply to get the lye dissolved so that it will bind with the oils. In fact, once the soap cures, the water will be completely evaporated out of the bar over time. Now you will find recipes with varying amounts of water, and this is fine, Over time, you'll learn that you can adjust your water to fit other additives, but as a beginner, a 2-to-1 ratio of water is a fine place to start, and it will give you a fine result in almost all of your basic recipes. Now you know all the correct measurements for your first recipe. 1 pound, or 16 ounces of Castile soap, will have 16 ounces of olive oil, 2.16 ounces of lye, and 4.32 ounces of water. Now, let's just take this one step further. What if I have a recipe with 2 oils and they have different saponification values? For example, I still want to make 1 pound of soap, so I want a total of 16 ounces, but I'm going to use 50% or 8 ounces of canola oil this time, and 50% or 8 ounces of lard. Now, these are also common oils in soap making. The canola, which is also called rapeseed oil, has a sap value of 0.136. So I need to multiply 8 ounces of canola by 0.136 for a total of 1.09 ounces. The lard has a sap value of 0.14. Multiply this by 8 ounces for a result of 1.12 ounces. Add these two values together for a sum of 2.21, and you will need 2.21 ounces of lye for this recipe. Now, what if I don't want to hassle with the math when I'm crafting my own recipe? Well, that's no problem. The internet has dozens of soap making calculators for free online. You just find the one that you like the best, bookmark it, and it's there for you when you want to make your recipe. At Thermal Mermaid, we have an easy calculator that anyone can use. Now, the soap making calculators are free. Anyone can access them from the menu on the front of the website. But to make it easy, when you're logged into your dashboard, at the very top there's a link that says Tools for Members. This will take you to a quick page with all of the members' tools and also the free tools that are available to you. You'll find all your calculators there as well. Click on the Soap and Lye calculator. Creating your recipe this way will allow for you to formulate your oils and instantly give you the amount of lye you need without having to do any math. First, select whether you're working with sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide. Then, choose your preferred measurement. Next, choose the amount of water. Now, my preference is to calculate water as a percent of the oils. I typically work with 33%, and this is set for you by default. You don't have to touch this unless you know that you want to change it for a more advanced reason. Next, choose the amount of superfat. Now, by default, this is set to 5%, and you can leave this for a basic bar. Superfatting your recipe is explained in the next lesson, so you'll know whether or not you want to change this number soon, but typically 5% is a good place to start. Then, come down here and select the oils that you want to include in your recipe. You'll find just about every oil you can imagine, so we'll select a common oil. Here's lard. Click the lard selection, and come over here to number 6 and click the pink Add Oil button. This will put lard on your list. Now add any other oils that you want to include on your list. You do need to tell the calculator how to combine the oils. Fill in the amount of oil that you want to use by either the percent or the amount. The total must equal to 100% or the total amount that you entered in part 2, or the calculator won't give you a proper result. Click Calculate Your Recipe once this is done, then click View Recipe. Now this is ready to be printed and your saponification values have been instantly calculated. Now we're ready to make our first recipe.